In today's episode of In Contact, we are discussing racial bias in education within Atlanta's public school system. There are many socio-economic and racial disparities between public schools in the same district that are still evident today. Our guest this morning is Darrell Smith, a teacher from an Atlanta public school, which will not be named for privacy and legal reasons. He will shed light on why many students of color are at a disadvantage due to their economic status. He will also touch on how we as a community can make Atlanta's educational system equal for all. According to the Atlanta Public Schools website of performance metrics, some North Atlanta high schools are reported to have only 17% of its students receiving free and/or reduced lunch, while some high schools in South Atlanta are reported to only having 61% of its students receiving free and/or reduced lunch. Both of these schools are considered to having high incomes. However, schools in South Atlanta have 1% of white students and 66% of black students, and only 48% of the students who attended the school in South Atlanta went to college the following semester, compared to the 87% of the students who attended the school in North Atlanta. Our guest, Darrell Smith, who teaches in a low-income area, will share his perspective on how to bridge the gap within Atlanta's public school system.
Be informed, you gotta know what's going on in our community. So together we can make a change, you and me. Be in contact.
Welcome to the In Contact Show.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
All right. And where did you go to school?
I went to Lithonia, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta.
All right. Now, why did you want to become a teacher?
Well, my passion for student success started, I think, even when I was a student in high school, working in summer programs throughout the county and throughout the state, in different developmental programs with the students to help them bridge the gap between the things they learned in school and the career path they decided to choose.
Now, when did you start your career as a teacher, or have you done any other school?
Before teaching, I was actually a retail manager for 5 years, where I learned a lot of the skills of management and process management and operations.
Now, what made you decide to become a teacher after you segued into that? Like, how did you make that transition? Well,
for me, just seeing the fact that the students did not have that bridge between education and career paths, seeing that the statistics show that majority of the students in my area were not choosing to go to college. They were choosing to actually start out in the field, choose trades. So I felt the need to be able to go back and show them properly how to go about doing that, how to go about choosing the career, how to go about marketing yourself properly.
And do you feel like it was important for you to do that as a career choice because you're a black man?
Not solely, okay, but I did feel as though it was my duty to make sure I gave back to the youth in some form or fashion.
And how would you rank or define or describe your school as a high-income school or a low-income school?
Statistically, definitely low income. The racial breakdown is about 90% African American, 5% Caucasian, about 5% other, 100% free or reduced lunch. The turnover rate as far as principals, we've had 5 or 6 principals within the last 7 years. Total student population is on free lunch. Entire school receives free reduced lunch and free breakfast. So they receive 2 free meals a day. So that kind of speaks to the income level of the area.
And how long have you been at this particular school that we will not name?
5 years now.
5 years. And have you, describe a typical day in the life of a teacher in a low resource area, or low income rather.
You definitely play different roles. You have to wear a lot of different hats being in a low income area. Most days we range from everything from guidance counselors to social resource officers to therapists to mothers to fathers. Just because there are so many tools that the students don't have, or so many resources that the students are not able to see. And when they compare them to other areas, they know they're being deprived. So kind of stepping into those gaps and filling in those gaps for some of the students kind of will have you playing a lot of different roles throughout the day.
And has that become a challenge for you?
For me, some days. And I say some days because most days I'm able to accept it because, again, I grew up in an area that's similar to the school that I teach at. So I understand the needs that the students have. But when you start to get situations where the students don't realize that they're being deprived and they become complacent in the situation they're in, those are the hardest days.
And what keeps you motivated?
The success stories. The 1 or 2 students you see that go on to graduate, they go to college, they start a business, they graduate from college, and they come back and tell you, like, you know, those simple words you said to me, or that assignment that you made me complete and made me do my best on, that's the assignment that pushed me over the top to be successful.
And are those success stories few and far between, or in your 5-year time there, have you been able to see a little bit more each year?
Comparing it to other areas, it's not that many. The number is pretty low when you compare it to the total student body or the total senior class. But knowing that there are 1 or 2 that can make it continue to be an inspiration for the rest of the students.
All right, so let's go back a little bit more about your school career. Where were you educated in the Lithonia area through elementary, middle, and high school?
Mostly DeKalb County.
Okay.
Wasn't all in the Lithonia area, some in Atlanta, some out further west in Lithonia, and a little bit out in Conyers as well.
Okay. Were you exposed to other students that did not look like you throughout your career as a student?
Most of my education career has been around people that look similar to me.
And do you think your high school or the education that you received up until that point when you went to college prepared you for college?
Somewhat. Somewhat. And I say somewhat because I can't all the way say that I was fully prepared when I went to college, but being in an area that was predominantly African American and going to a HBCU, I was comfortable. It made me comfortable. It made me feel more free to explore and meet new people and, you know, exploring different things on the campus. So I can't say that education-wise I was prepared, but as far as socially, I think I was prepared to accept the college.
So if you would have gone to if you didn't go to an HBCU,
okay,
do you think you would have been prepared for college?
I still think so. Personally, I think so. Just because of the person I am. I mean, I'm the type of person that agree to everybody, that speaks to everybody, no matter the race or gender. And I always try to find that common ground with people. So for me, I think I still would have done pretty well.
So let me ask you this. Now that we've essentially realized that there are disadvantages to those schools that are in a lower income area, why do you think that is so, from a student perspective and now an educator's perspective?
From a student perspective, I felt as though the individuals in our community or in our area just didn't care about the success of the students. They cared about getting you out those doors after 4 years, but outside of that, as far as pushing you to do more, I don't feel that was the biggest effort for our administrative team and our counselors. As a teacher, I think the biggest difference now is the schools on the north end compared to schools on the south end. They naturally have people that are coming back to give resources to those schools outside of, you know, public or state funding. So being in the different areas or being able to afford to be in those different areas allows them to be able to give resources back to their schools on a constant basis, where on the south end, we don't have those resources, we don't have those opportunities or abilities because of the income levels, because we don't have that residual income to be able to give back to the school and feed into the programs.
And in your experience now, how often are people coming back to essentially pay it forward to the same areas that taught them? You know what I'm saying? And they were able to make it out.
Very slim. Oftentimes, what I've realized, been in my area, I have to go out and seek the individuals that graduated from the school or that are going on to become successful businessmen or business women. Rather than on the northern end, they have people that are coming back to the school and telling the school, this is what we're doing. This is what I want to do for you all. I know what the school meant to me. So let's see, can some of these same opportunities be generated for the students you have here now?
And when you go out into the community and so essentially you're like a part-time fundraiser, it seems like.
I told you, many hats.
So because of that, how are you received in the community when you say, hey, I'm a teacher, this is the school I teach at, blah, blah, blah. Can you help us? What's the reception?
Because where I am, again, the area is so populated, we have about 6 different schools within a 10-mile radius. So oftentimes the resources are so scarce. You go to local businesses and you ask them for assistance, or you tell them what you're trying to do as far as new programs, and they say, hey, the school down the street, I've been supporting them the last 5 years, or I've already given my last to, the school that's 2 miles away from you. Like, is there anything else we can do? Or they tell you, I mean, just straight up, we can't do it. We don't have it. Check again next year, or whatever that may be.
Wow, and is this a common complaint or issue that most of the teachers that you work alongside have expressed?
Absolutely.
How so?
Absolutely. Because every program in the school needs funding. I mean, as far as basketball teams, as far as the sports teams, as far as your clubs, everybody needs funding in order to be successful, in order to really bring those resources in to expose them to the children. Without that, we're dealing with bare minimums, forcing our teachers to be very creative on ways to express their lesson or get over their opinions to the students.
And how have you had to be creative and tap into therapist, fundraiser, and now innovative educator?
Just being creative with the funding that you do receive, making sure you try to use every penny of it to show them that you do have a need, for the funding. Most of the things we're done as far as video broadcasting, we do in the classroom sometimes. So as far as that, we have the students just shoot from their cell phones rather than actually having video cameras. Or, a lot of hands-on activities where they're writing out business plans, or they're writing out their visions of if they had supplies or if they had infinite resources, what would they do with them? So a lot of it comes from just being a visionary or just having a high, imagination.
And I guess, and it's funny that your scenario, both scenarios echo my own scenario. So I actually relate to this conversation, especially what we're having in particular. But how do you see that the students are affected as far as when you are having to be as creative and like, okay, if you had these resources, if you had these tools, how would you use that? Do they know that that's not the same way in other schools? That makes sense?
They have some idea. Of course, the students are very intelligent, so they have ways of connecting to students at other schools through social media all the time. So they know the type of resources that the other schools are receiving. But a lot of them, they don't know to the extent. So they don't know if I have an extra 15 computers in this lab, how did that equate to me being more successful in college? Or if I have funding to have new uniforms and new shoes, how did that affect the morale of the team? So that part of it they don't really understand, but they just know, oh, this school has more computers than us, or this school get more money than us. They don't understand the breakdown of it.
What is the breakdown?
As far as
why those students don't understand the bigger picture, or that you all see as administrator or educators and the higher up see? You know what I'm saying? What is the bigger picture?
It's really the exposure. I always use this example when I have conversations with people as far as my school that I work at is about 10 minutes, maybe about 10 miles from the city. So on a field trip, I had a field trip down to the Georgia Aquarium, and about a minute to the city, the entire bus gets quiet. So I look back, looking at my students, and everybody's staring out the windows. They're looking up at the buildings. Many of my students had not even been downtown before. And we're talking about a 10-mile, 10-minute distance. So it's just that exposure of what is happening outside of their bubble. and a lot of students are just not getting that.
Wow. Well, let's get to how we can fix the problem, if anything, when we get back.
Okay.
We'll be right back.
Georgia Power is always working to make the connection with our customers even stronger. With innovative solutions to make your life easier, thousands of places to pay your bill. Find rate plans that fit your lifestyle. Get questions answered in person or on social media. Even purchase energy-efficient products online. Now more than ever, there are so many new ways to connect to Georgia Power. Learn more at georgiapower.com.